when doing a crowdfunding project on Kickstarter, there are some things that can hold you back or out of order, and it's counterintuitive the way that you would think normally that you want to do a Kickstarter project. And now we're specifically talking about Kickstarter crowdfunding, and that has to do with banking. The banking process on Kickstarter can be a little confusing or even intimidating. So here's how it works. Let me just tell you, first of all, Kickstarter doesn't take your money. Kickstarter has a partnership with Amazon. Amazon takes your money, which also means that when you start a Kickstarter project, Amazon is the one that collects the money from all your backers. So this is important. Before you can get started, Amazon has some strict guidelines of who can qualify to receive money through the Amazon payment process. And you can go on their website and take a look, and there's all kinds of criteria. You have to be a US citizen, you have to have a bank account or a social security number, a tax ID, and there is an incredibly, I'm going to use the word complex process if you're not prepared for it. So let me tell you the common scenario that happens that you want to avoid. You go onto Kickstarter, you see the project, you kind of create your idea, you start working on it, you get ready to launch it, you wait to the end, then you submit it to Kickstarter, they come back and you're like, woohoo, they approved it. And then you hit the banking button. Unfortunately, this isn't simply hit a button and it works. So the reason I'm doing this little segment is that my first advice to you as the potential Kickstarter project owner is to go to Kickstarter right now, click on the start button, doesn't matter what, doesn't matter the project, but hit create a project and immediately go to the banking section. It says account, banking, and start the process. Here's why. It takes up to 7 days for this process to work. 7 days. You have to go through a tax interview. Amazon submits you to a tax interview. They're going to ask you a ton of questions. And we'll have a segment that I'll show you how that works. A ton of segments, forms that you have to fill out, numbers that you have to submit, banking information that you have to send. That information then has to be sent to your bank and it has to be approved and validated and verified. All of that takes, and Kickstarter tells you, it takes up to 7 days. So what happens is as you look at the process, that bar, as it goes across the top of the bar, you're seeing create your project, come up with your pledge levels, do your messaging, and then this banking's all the way at the end. This is why I say it's counterintuitive. The banking needs to be at the beginning. So even if you don't have a project right now, and I'll say this again, you need to go out to Kickstarter, hit create, go and set up the banking information right now. A couple of questions? Well, I'm not a corporation. Can I do this? Yes, it'll ask you for a business ID and all of that. Add that information, or if you're just an individual, get yourself some information about that. But Kickstarter's going to want to know, and Amazon's going to want to know, what website is out there that people can go to get more information about your project. So it's necessary you have some kind of website, something, even if it's a Facebook page, facebook.com/your project name, something. And then go ahead and set up that banking information immediately. Here's why. Your project's going to go along, or maybe you don't even have your project done yet. And you want to be able to launch that project on a moment's notice. Once the banking's set up, it's kind of like pre-qualifying for a car or a house. Once you find the house, sometimes you want to close right then. And you don't want to go through the qualification process. This is what you're doing. You're going into Kickstarter and you're qualifying yourself first before you even submit a project. And by the way, the qualification process through Amazon has nothing to do with the validity, the type, size, or anything of your project. They are two separate things. Even though they're kind of tied together by a single process, it's two different entities you're dealing with. Kickstarter over here and Amazon banking over here. So you go to Kickstarter, hit create, create your project. It can be bogus, it doesn't really matter, and then go hit that bank account and start setting that up and go through all of that process to create your banking information, because that is the most stressful, and that's going to take all that time. And if you waited to the end, it's going to stress you out because you're probably under a deadline. And so that's my biggest advice to you. The number one thing you should do right now, if you're thinking of doing a crowdfunding project on Kickstarter, right now, whether it's a month from now, 6 months from now, or a year from now, go get that banking information set up right now. You'll be so much happier that you got it done so early in the process.